Right now, tip number 5 has to do with the environment because we've talked a lot about what you as the worker could do, you if you are in a leadership role, but let's just talk straight up the remote work environment. Some differences from the in office for certain. So our first tip is that it should be a recurring, well-organized, dedicated space to work, set up with a work attitude and productivity. Talk to me about recurring. What does that mean?
I mean, what's a better place to work? My bed or sitting in a chair with a table?
That makes sense. So, okay, yeah. So something that's dedicated, it's the mindset shift, right? You're like, so this is where I do my home, this is where I do my work. And that was one of the challenges in the pandemic where we had all of our lives compressed into one space. So not only our work and our personal, but also the school life. And sometimes if two people were working there. So that became quite everyone's on top of each other. So that's if you do have the space to do that, if you don't have an entirely separate room, is there like a little corner or some place that you can say, this is where I do my work to train yourself to get into that professional mindset, into doing the tasks that you need to get done?
I think, creating that separation between work and home is another one of those easier said than done's, depending on your environment. So, you just got to figure out what works best for you. Like for me, I just moved into this house almost 5 years ago. In my old house, I had a whole office space. And so when I first moved in here, I didn't have that. I'm pretty good about just compartmentalizing. So it at the time it didn't feel like that big of a deal. I just grab my laptop, put it on a table, and get to work. Or I'd grab a laptop, sit in the chair, and work. And now I would say I guess it was about a year ago I finally set up a permanent space here. Finally, after 4 years, I finally did that, and it's just nice to have like my own space set up where I know when I come in here, and other people do too now too. Like before, it was a little more loosey goosey with people around the house, like because it's like, are you working or not? Like now they know if I'm in the office and the door's closed. Expect like sometimes I'll leave the door open, but if the door's closed, I'm usually not getting interrupted unless an emergency.
Definitely agree on that. And if you do have smaller home space, so you might not have an entire room that you can dedicate to it, but what is a space that you can have?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I remember connecting with one of the keynote speakers for one of the virtual conferences that we did. Actually, I remember two stories. One of funny one and one. I was going to be serious first until I saw like a little smile appear on your face. And you were probably thinking I was going to the funnier one where we were like, "Hey, dude, is this really where you're going to do your keynote from?" But I was actually thinking of the more formal one where it appeared she was in a smaller apartment, but she had a specific area kind of set up where she did her, because I think she taught virtually too. And so she had a little area set up where she knew, like, I'm going to sit at looked like maybe it was like a breakfast nook or a kitchen table type thing, but she had kind of had it look very like plants, and it was, she had some natural light. Like that was one of the other tips too, is optimize natural light if possible, if you have it. You don't want it to be like a milk mustache, right? If you can optimize it, you can do that. And she did. I can remember us even talking to her about her lighting. Like, do you have blinds? Can you adjust that a little bit? It's possible. No matter what your situation is, you just got to figure out what is it. What is it for you? Another tip was ensure noise and distraction control to promote focus. Again, as much as you can. I mean, you can only do what you can do. Like, hey, even if you have to go old school and find some folders, like you had to do when you were in elementary school, and be like, put up your office,
Mhm.
maybe you need to kind of do that to let people know, hey, when I got my folders up, dad's working. When I got my noise canceling headphones on, that means now's not a time to come talk to dad. I'm in work mode.
And then, that taps into it within the environment. So if you do have other people in your home environment, do they know kind of the communication? Because I know if the kids are over visiting and they know If the door is shut, then they'll text me. They're like, hey, are you in a call? Or because we don't want them knocking on the door. So if we're recording or something like that. And then I was going to tap onto what you said about the natural light. There are some places that you might not have natural light, but what's really fantastic is that so much of the technologies you can get really small options for lighting to where some of them will just sit on top of your laptop. So if you do have an external camera, you can add some lighting there so it's consistent and you don't even have to worry about if you have natural light coming in. So just a little bit of that can help. If if video is important to you, we think it's important to have that human connection. Moving on to essential tools like a quality chair, a desk, computer, external monitor, storage. If it's an external keyboard, a mouse, what are the things that you need? And I know I have a friend that works in financial services, and that was one of the things as the pandemic hit, and they worked from home, and I thought she would be loving it. It seemed like her job would be one that would be easily done from home. She did not like it. And part of it was that she enjoyed being around people. So she liked the social aspect of it. But then as we chatted more, her office setup was very different from her home setup. And so she had certain monitors there. And so when she went home, she didn't have a space to put up her external. So literally, it was very difficult for her to do her job just with a laptop monitor. And also because they would have to do like presentations. And so she was the one that was having to run them. And so, a lot of times on the single monitor and you're having to run the presentation and you're trying to access it was a lot. And so that's why if you don't have the appropriate tools for what you're doing, yes, it can be very frustrating to work from home.
Yeah, I mean, I think a universal one that I'm surprised isn't in the little example list is the stable, good internet connection because anybody that's experienced, and I feel like most people have experienced it as just an out, anytime like internet's on the fritz and you're like, really? Like, what is going on? It's up and down or the quality's really low. What's happening? It's like that can be so frustrating. It depends on who you are. You got to think like, what are the things that I absolutely need? And then if it's going to be something that's like a permanent situation, well, what are the things that are good to have? Should I invest in a larger monitor? Do I need the second,
Mhm.
third, fourth monitor I think people are on now? You don't want to sit down to work and every time you do, you're just a little irritated. You want to set yourself up for success as much as you can. The last one there about add personal touches. You can see both of our backgrounds. Like that's kind of important to me. And I'm not usually a person that's like that on a lot of things. That one's, I invested a lot of time and energy into doing my backdrop here when I set this office up because I was like, that's important to me. I want to represent who I am when I connect to people. So not only did they see me, I want them to get a little feel for like, oh, what is this? What's this person about?
I was thinking back to being in person because when we had our little cubbies that in the organization that I was in, that was one of the things that we would do to have it be a little bit cozy. That's part of what I like. I don't prefer the blurred background, does not work for me. So I spent some time to arrange what my backdrop would be. And so I kind of think of that in other places where I might work, even if I'm not in this office. Sometimes I'll work at the table, but I'm always kind of thinking like, oh, if I had to jump on a call, what's behind me? A little bit of personality is good. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of guitars. Like a lot of people will have like something that represents their hobby or another passion or something that they're interested in. And I think that connects back with one of the benefits of video. You can see people, you can hear people, a little bit of something personal in the background. I've had people, hey, what about that? Tell me about that little troll doll, in the background. I'm like, yes, there's a story related to the troll doll.
This closes out our first pair of remote work conversations where we laid out some foundation and provided some success tips. The resources we referenced in the conversation, you'll see them listed in the description below if you want to check out where we got some of this information. Let us know what you think about some of the success tips we shared. Does anything resonate with you? Did you disagree with anything? Do you have others that, maybe we didn't touch upon that you're like, oh, this is an important one to me? Let us know. Our next pair of remote work conversations that are coming up. So conversations 3 and 4, they're going to focus on why remote work is being implemented. And then on the flip side, why remote work is being mandated against, which I feel like we're hearing more and more about in the news here early 2025. Should be fun. Stay tuned. Any closing thoughts or comments from you, Roxanne?
I like going through the perspective shift from the employee, employer, and physical space. And just a reminder, I will link the first conversation. It will be linked in the description here, and we'll put together a little playlist so they'll show up in order on the channel.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Take care, y'all.